Hey guys, and welcome back. Today I'm going to be teaching you how you can checkmate your opponent with a king and a rook only when your opponent only has a king. So what you're going to do is you're going to kind of imagine this rook holding a box. So here, if I just move this here, you'll see that there's a box holding in the king, and the king cannot escape this box. These are the only spots that it could go to escape it, and it can't go there, as you can see. There's one thing that it can do though, and that is to capture the rook. So if it was right here, it would be able to capture the rook. Luckily, we have our king protecting it, so a lot of times we're going to have our king right next to the rook, protecting it while we make the box smaller. So that's what our goal is to make the box smaller. Make sure that you don't put your king right where the rook is making a box, because then the king can escape. So for instance, if I just went like here, back, and I'll move the king out a little bit. Now here if we had the king go here, then our king could go right here and block the rook, but that would block the rook and allow the king to escape. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we do not have our king on any of these squares that the rook is making a box on. So here we can make the box smaller by going here, closes the box a little smaller, and our king is still protecting our rook. So we want to make sure of that. Okay, now the king has to go somewhere, so we can go over here. So now we can make the box even smaller by going here, but then we're going to lose our rook. So we want to make sure that our king is always protecting. So our king can go here, and it can go here because although it is blocking the rook this way, we only care about these two lasers that the rook is shooting out that is holding the king. So now the king might go over here, and now we kind of just need to wait it out because we got to wait till the king moves away so we can move. So we can go here maybe, and now if the king went here, then we just go here and make the box smaller, right? And that's the same if the king goes over here, we could do the same thing. But if the king goes here, we cannot make the box smaller this way, right? So what do? Well, actually, what we can do is we can go here and block this rook here. Now, it is quite dangerous, but I don't really see anything else that you can do. What it's doing is it's blocking the opponent's king from moving this way. So the next move, wherever the king goes, next time we can make the box smaller. We want to be careful about doing that. Like something like this is also possible because the king is blocking these three spots, and the rook is blocking this spot, which is making a wall here and a wall here. But you do have to be careful. You don't want to just go on this file unless you have to. So now the king does something like this, and we want to do this to make the box smaller. Alright, so now let's just keep doing this and then see what happens once we make the box a lot smaller. Now we're kind of closing in on this king here, so we're just going to continue making the box smaller until there's just two spots that the king can go. So now here we have to be kind of careful because we don't want to do something like this where we make the box super small so that there's only one spot that the king can go, because that's going to be a draw, and we don't want to draw, we want to win the game, right? So we don't want to do that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to just move our rook along this file. We want to get as far away from this king as possible. So like that. Now that the king's over here, what we want to do is our goal is to get the kings across from each other like this, and it's your move. Alright, so we do want them to be across from each other, but we also want to have it to be your move. So once it's your move, you can move the rook down and checkmate the king. So let's go through a couple of examples. Okay, so here we have a kings and the rook. So our rook's far away from this king, which is good, and it's the opponent's move. So it really doesn't matter where the opponent goes, here or here, because what we're going to do is we're going to move towards it. Now, if the king goes here, we can just checkmate, right? But if it goes here, then we're just going to continue pushing it into the wall. And then once it goes into the wall, then we'll just go right here, and then there's only one move that the king can go, and that's here, which allows you to checkmate. Okay, so here's another example. We've kind of got the same thing, except now it's our move. So where's the best thing to go? You might think, oh, here's the best thing to go because we want them across from each other. But remember, we don't want that. What we want is for them to be across from each other and it to be our move. is not our move, so we don't want to be across from each other. So instead what we're going to do is we're just going to do a waiting move. And a waiting move is just changing it from our move to their move. So it's our move right now, but we don't want it to be our move because there's not really anywhere good we can go. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to move our rook just one spot. Make sure that's still on this column or file, I can't remember. Now it is white's move. So white can go here, but then you just go checkmate. If white goes over here, then you're just going to follow the king into the edge, and then it has to come back, and then that's checkmate. Do be careful about having the rook too close though, because if, for instance, the king did this, you can't go down here and checkmate because it'll just kill it. Instead, what you have to do is you have to go all the way across, and then once the king moves, you have to do a waiting move. Now we can just kind of push the king into the edge again, but now the king's going to get really close to our rook, so we're going to have to go back over here, and then the king might come back, and in that case we'll just do a waiting move, and then drive it into the edge. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned how to checkmate with a rook and a king. And anyway, I will see you next time.